Well, it looks like the Palestinians are headed back home. There's a lot of people walking, headed back to Gaza. It looks like it's going to happen, guys. That's what it looked like. What's up? What's up? What's up? Appreciate y'all for joining. I'm going to show this Gaza strip. Looks like they're headed back home, guys. Let's see. That's what it looked like. Let me see what I got showing over here. Right there. Looks like they're headed back. While I get everything set up. Wait. Appreciate y'all for joining. Trying to get this other computer set up over here. Trying to get it all set up on this other side over here. Let's see what's going on. Appreciate y'all for joining. 8:30 a.m. where I'm at. Got to get this other side over here hooked up, ready to go. If you're looking at the screen right here, wondering who that is, that's the Palestinians and those people that are on the Gaza Strip. That's them headed back to the Strip. So it looks like, I don't want to share that tab. It looks like everything is starting to show up. Everything is starting to happen. That is a beautiful sight, though. They have to walk miles to get over there. They have to walk miles. Wait, I see something else too that I think is very, very important. Let me go. Hold on. I'm trying to get this other side over here set up. I think it's a nice look, nice view. Look like this is inside of one of the neighborhoods. Scenes from the Gaza Strip. Inside the neighborhood of Gaza. I'd like to thank APT for this view. Inside the neighborhood of Gaza. As we see on the other picture, a lot of people are headed back to that strip, which I think is cool. Wait, what's going on? Got a little freeze. I guess we'll come back to that. Okay, we back. So they got, maybe that's a furniture store right there. And one thing you can say about them is, you know, they look pretty clean, like their clothes and stuff are pretty clean. Wow, look at that. Furniture, bags. People are headed back, trying to come back to their homes to see if anything is left. Let's see. Let's see. Look at this picture. Look at this video. Amazing, right? People are actually walking miles back to their homes. Actually making it back to the strip. Some of these people won't have no homes to go to. Homes are destroyed. We already seen the images of what it looks like back there. Just hope that this phase 1, phase 2 all works out, because just imagine, guys, if it's any hiccups on this plan, what's going to happen? Because all these millions of people that you can see is starting to walk back to the Gaza Strip. That's why we got to make sure everything goes 100% as planned. As we see people and cars, see a couple of cars, people going back to see what's left. Kind of remind me of a hurricane, right? When it's a bad hurricane and they tell you to evacuate, then you got to come back home and see what damages is to your house, to your property. Of course, this is like 100,000% worse, but looks like it's a beautiful little ocean right there. Beach, beach. The beach front. As we can see, some people was living right there. Look at those tents. Just imagine how long that walk is. From right here, where the camera is, all the way back there to where those buildings are way in the back. I just couldn't imagine going through that. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. The question is, will this ceasefire last? That's the question. And guess what? My camera's back working the way it was before. Everything's ready to rock and roll. Everything's ready to rock. Let me look inside the comments section. Wanda Burton, peace for all in the Middle East. It's already over. Peace, brother. Hey, what's going on tomorrow? Appreciate you for joining. Let me go over here because I know looking at the comments through this streaming service, sometimes I don't get all the comments. So let me go over here. All right. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Man, I did. Where's my? Okay, I did bring. I'm about to say, chat. I thought. Wait, this is not okay. Nobody made a comment yet, according to YouTube. I thought I forgot my water, but everything is ready to rock and roll. I had a good night of sleep last night. If y'all don't know, I'm back on my marathon training. I'm back training for a marathon. And guess what? I feel amazing. That's why it's good to rest and take a break. I took a week off, and man, this week has been one of my best weeks as far as energy levels. And just like that, it's Friday. Hope everybody having a happy Friday, great Friday. If you wonder what this is, it's the Palestinians and the people headed back to Gaza to see what is left of their homes, property, or whatever the case may be. Yep, that's them headed back, which is a long walk. A long walk. Let's see what else. Go back over here. Like NVIDIA broke my support line and my uptrend line. I was looking for the bounce to get above 194, but let's see. Of course, it's going to be hard to get above that 190, at 195.30. Let's see. If we get inside of a channel on NVIDIA, it's going to be hard to get above 190. That in between 194 and 195 is going to be hard for NVIDIA to get over that. Let's see. Appreciate y'all for joining. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. And if you're looking at this picture, that is in the neighborhood of Gaza. Let me go back over here. And this other video is the Palestinians and the Gaza people headed back to the strip. Millions of people got to get back over there. And they gave them the A-OK to head back home. And that's what's happening right now. It's good to see these people going back. But of course, they're wondering what they're going to go back to. It's going to cost a whole lot of money to rebuild this place. Look, they're hauling beds. I guess they're about, oh, golly, it's packed. They're going back home with their beds, clothes, coming back home, I guess. If I can remember correctly, a lot of these people, they evacuated to Egypt, I think. If I'm wrong, chat, somebody in the chat room correct me, but I think majority of these people evacuated to Egypt. Is he standing on top of that? Yeah. That might be the news. Yeah, that's what it is. Somebody from the press, the media, trying to get some good pictures of the people going back home. Yeah. Got kids playing. You know, I bet these people are so happy that all this is over with. It's amazing to see that it's finally over. I think it's been going on for 2 years. I'm just hoping that nothing happens. That's all that, that's what I keep thinking about in the back of my mind, because it's barely like they call it phases, phase 1, phase 2. It's barely phase 1. And I think Hamas is supposed to release all the hostages Monday or Tuesday. I'm just thinking, what if Hamas don't release those hostages? What's going to happen? All these people that came back to the area because Netanyahu, I don't Ben Bibi, as they call him, he already said if Hamas don't do what they're supposed to do, that they're going to amp up the attacks. Yeah, he said they're going to come down strong. Hey, what's up, Lord? How you doing? Appreciate you for joining. Let me go back. Okay, they putting up the Palestinian flag. Come on, zoom on in. Yeah. But from looking at the people, they all look pretty clean, though, you know.
Going to be to try and deal with some of these ambiguities and uncertainties and come out with a tangible diplomatic agreement, which, you know, Trump is not a details man. He's been a bulldozer pushing this through. Getting to the detail will take a sustained diplomatic effort and agreements. It's not something that necessarily can be imposed in the same way that he actually said with, you know, after the 9th of September attacks on Doha, on the Hamas leadership in Doha by the Israelis. That clearly was Netanyahu overplaying his hand massively. And the consequences that he's dealing with now is that Trump has got in there because attacking Qatar is bad for America. Trump has got in there and he's grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and said, Israel's going to the table and you're going to stay there until there is a deal based on my 20 points. Now, that has happened. But what happens next? The detailed stuff, very difficult to achieve.
Let's speak to Tom Fletcher, UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. He's speaking to us from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Amal.
Let's just do a little bit on your understanding of the situation before we get into the plans that you must have for the next month or so. Journalists are still prohibited by Israel from entering Gaza. Have you heard from your people in Gaza in the past 90 minutes or so that the ceasefire has begun and is holding?
So I'm in very close touch with our teams inside Gaza, but also with survivors in Nir Oz Kibbutz and civilians in Gaza as well. They have long waited and hoped for this moment, and we've worked hard to get here. It must not be a false dawn. We need to ensure that President Trump's plan isn't blocked by hardliners on either side. We're hearing there have been strikes overnight. I think Jeremy Bowen was reporting that about an hour ago as well. Today is crucial. We need the guns to go silent and we need this ceasefire to be implemented.
And as far as you understand, Tom, who is now responsible for aid in Gaza?
So the UN has a plan. There's been unimaginable suffering in Gaza, tens of thousands killed, including over 18,000 children. That's a child killed on average every hour for 2 years. And this agreement's a real breakthrough. But the real breakthrough will be when the hostages are home, when children are fed, when they can sleep without terror under a roof, when they're not bombed and maimed, when they can be operated on with anesthetics, when they can go back to school, when families are reunited again. And so we will deliver that plan. We've got a 60-day plan to get that aid in, to save lives at huge, huge scale. We have fought and beaten famines before, and we will do it again this time.
Very, very keen to talk to you about the specifics of that plan in just a moment. Well, I've got one other practical question, if I may, before we get there, which is how confident are you that the restrictions previously placed on aid deliveries by Israel, who say that those deliveries have been hijacked or vandalized, that those restrictions will now be lifted?
So that's the big question for the coming hours and days. And obviously we're in very close touch with the Israeli authorities in country to make sure that those impediments, those obstacles are now removed. We need all the crossings open. We need safe routes for our convoys. We need our people protected. Hundreds of my colleagues have been killed in the last 2 years. We need the removal of red tape and physical barriers. We need the power back on to our bakeries, our hospitals, our water stations. It's a massive, massive job ahead. We need access for our NGO colleagues and partners as well. And as you say, we need the international media to get back in and tell the world what is happening and hold us to account for saving lives.
Well, let's go through some of your plans for the coming weeks and months then. Let's do this in stages if we can. First of all, we'll get to the health system, which has been decimated, and water and sanitation. But first of all, just on food, I think your understanding, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but there is now significant famine and acute malnutrition across the 2.1 million people of Gaza. What are your plans for increasing food deliveries immediately?
So that's objective number one. We've got to get high nutrition food in. We've got to get hundreds of truckloads, convoy. We need to overwhelm Gaza with food and generosity and aid and help right now. We need to get food to 2 million people across the strip in every part of Gaza, north and south. And we have those supplies pre-positioned. We've got 172,000 metric tons of food, medicine and tents all cleared, ready to go in. The teams are on standby at the crossings. The trucks are ready to roll, and we'll use our community networks, our expertise, our experience to get that food where it is most needed.
What are your plans when it comes to the health system?
It's a massive, massive challenge. I saw for myself when I visited in January the scale of destruction of the hospitals and of the medical sector, and of course it's got even worse since then. So we've got to rebuild those hospitals. We've got to get the essential anesthetics in, painkillers in. We've got to ensure that full medical supplies are flowing, but also medical expertise, because many of those working nurses and doctors in that sector have also been killed. It's a massive, massive task ahead that has to run alongside that effort to feed everyone in Gaza.
And presumably one of the most urgent tasks concerns water and sanitation.
We need to get water to 1.4 million people as part of this plan. We also need to help people prepare for the winter ahead. It's getting much colder already, and so we're looking to get thousands of tents into Gaza in the coming days and weeks to give them that shelter, but also to give them the means to start to go back and begin to rebuild their lives. We also want to get the kids back to school, so we have a plan to get 700,000 school-aged kids back into temporary classrooms at least, and supplied with the books and the pens and pencils to begin studying again.
To what extent can you just explain the principles you apply to the extent
it's going to be a massive rebuild,
Hamas, who remain in place, who've been completely disarmed, to get that delivery, to get those health services, to get the water and sanitation through? What's your principled position in terms of what you'll do with a group which Israel says still needs to be disarmed urgently?
So our major priority is to get that aid to civilians where it's most needed. And here in Gaza, as everywhere, we have to work in a neutral, impartial, independent, principled way. Now, everywhere we work, and I've been on the phone today to colleagues in Sudan who are getting past armed groups in Sudan, we always have to negotiate access with whoever is on the ground. But we shouldn't have to ask to get to civilians. We'll work with everyone we need to work with to get past the blockages, whether those are on the border or whether those are the armed groups inside Gaza, and reach the communities, the mums and dads and kids, the families who need this support right now and can't wait.
This is obviously an extremely precarious, fast-changing situation. We're very grateful for your time speaking to us, Tom. What's your biggest concern about what could go wrong in the coming days?
This is a day trading
so many things can go wrong. The devil's in the detail of this. I think President Trump deserves real credit for having got us to this point and having set up this framework for a ceasefire and potential peace. Now we have to get the details right. We've got to move on from this vicious cycle of cruelty and terror and revenge and complicity, indifference and inhumanity. And then we have to rebuild Gaza. And beyond that, somehow start to rebuild trust and hope between Israelis and Palestinians. And that's going to be a really, really long, hard process. We've got to rebuild confidence in international law that's been so corroded by this war. We've got to have patience, and we've got to have massive generosity in the time ahead. And I hope that people who've been moved by what they've seen in Gaza will now be moved to be generous. We're only 25% funded on our appeal.
I think I'm going to
so please, pick up the phone, get online, visit crisisrelief.un.org.
That will lower my camera
and let's flood Gaza with aid.
For a better view. Excuse me, Chad, I'm just thinking out loud. What's up, chat? We got 12 people in the building. Appreciate you for coming through. If you're just now joining, we are watching the Palestinians returning back to the Gaza Strip, which is a beautiful sight. And as you can see, that is a long walk. Well, yeah, that's a long walk.
And we're really eager to see all of them back home again. And that is a tremendous achievement of President Trump, his team, his style of diplomacy. Nobody else has been able to do it so far. And that is a very good development. However, the deal is very good in its core. But there are many parts of the
And
deal
on another
that
note,
I think
we're
Hamas
headed into
will
the 10th
fight
day of
tooth
the
and
government
nail
shutdown.
in order to obfuscate, delay, and eventually to erode and not to fulfill. And the big challenge here will be, how will Israel respond? What kind of leeway will President Trump allow Israel in terms of making sure that the deal is enforced? Because if this deal isn't enforced beyond hostages, then it means that we will have to go back to war. And that's a scenario that we really want to prevent. And it's definitely time to move on here and build a better future. But it can only happen if Hamas is really disarmed and won't be able to control the Gaza Strip in the future.
We've seen a lot of deals here that have been talked about. There have been a word of different agreements that have been made, and then they fall through. So can you kind of go into detail?
I just said that about 10 minutes ago, guys. As we see all these people go back, all it takes is Hamas to go back on one thing, and then they're back to square one. I just said that about 10 minutes ago, 5 or 10 minutes ago. Just think if this breaks through after all these people head back home.
On your perspective, what maybe makes this one more credible, more probable to actually be upheld than some of the others that we've seen?
Presidential power and leadership, a president who is personally vested with his presidential prestige on the line, invested in it, and personal attention to the matter. That's number one and easiest, the most important factor. Number two, that President Trump and his team were able to get Arab and Muslim countries on board. And Qatar and Turkey, and Egypt to a certain extent, but Qatar and Turkey are Hamas supporters. They are state sponsors of terrorism. They are countries that really helped Hamas over the years in investment, research and development, political ties and funding. And for President Trump to have been able to get these two countries, Qatar and Turkey, to tell Hamas that Hamas's time is up and that Hamas needs to be disarmed, return the hostages, and let go of control over the Gaza Strip, that is the biggest achievement. That is what really distinguishes this deal from every other attempt that we've seen in the past. And of course, nothing like the foolish, naive recognitions of a Palestinian state that we've seen the French and the Canadians and the British do. That is only tailwind for Hamas. And what President Trump has been able to do is to build a regional alliance of countries that have real skin in the game here and are closer to the border, and get them on board with a plan that has a chance of bringing good things for the future for everybody, for Israel and for Arabs. And that, I think, it's the core of it. It's, we're all on edge.
So basically, they want Hamas to surrender. That's what they want. That's what they're asking for. And so far, it kind of looked like that. But all these people coming back, all it takes is Hamas to go back on the word. And we're going to see something that we never seen before. BB already told us. We giving y'all a chance. Do this. If you do it, cool. the war gonna end. But if you don't, we're gonna put something on you that you have never, ever, ever, ever seen before. And when it comes to that part, the rest of the world, all the leaders, the main players that helped put this together, is 100% with that. So with these people going back, if Hamas has a plan to renege on the deal, guys, chat, it's going to be over with. We're going to see something that we have never seen before. It's going to be way worse than Afghanistan.
You showed us scenes from the hostage square. Everybody in Israel is waiting at the edge of their seat for, it's 68 hours left until all of the hostages are supposed to be home.
My son and I slept here last night on the pavement in the cold, waiting to go back home, Wael says. Even if the house is destroyed, even if it's just rubble, we'll go back, put up a tent and return to our people. After hours of uncertainty, the Israeli military confirmed that the ceasefire had started. Israeli troops have pulled back from some parts, but under the deal, they still occupy over half of Gaza. Many now are going back, even by foot, to mourn who's been lost and to start rebuilding what's been destroyed. In Israel, the countdown for the release of the hostages has begun. 20 are believed to remain alive. One of them is Segev Hafon, kidnapped at the Nova Music Festival.
We hope that he returns safe and sound, and we wish that, with God's help, within the next 2 or 3 days, we will see him. We'll rejoice together with the family, and we really hope that everyone, not just him, returns safe and sound.
It's still not clear when and where the hostages will be freed. The deal brokered by Trump is a major victory, but there's no clear plan for what happens in Gaza next.
The point now is that we need countries coming together to make peace a reality and to actually make it happen, because this is still a fragile process, but it's one that there is huge momentum behind and huge commitment to, so we have to make it work.
They can now walk without fearing the war, but the Gaza they know is no longer there, and no one knows what the new Gaza will be. Hugo Mashega, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, we can go live for the very latest to our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie Abu.
We have a closer view. Got 29 people in the building. Y'all please do me a favor and hit that like button for the algorithm so we get more people in the chat. Y'all do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 30 people in there. Appreciate y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all for coming through. also got a government shutdown in the United States of America. And right now, Leader Johnson is speaking about the progress of the government shutdown. So we're going to switch it over here, chat, to see what he has to say.
Cut through the obstruction and understand exactly who is to blame for this chaos. In fact, would you bring me that chart just real quick? I just want to point this out. Let's just make clear. This is the votes to pay troops and federal workers, okay? This is the number of times that the vote has been done. September 10th, the GOP in the House voted to pay the troops and pay all these federal workers. The Senate did it on September 19th, September 30th, again on October 1st, and 3rd, and 6th, and the 8th, and the 9th. Every single time the Republicans voted to pay the troops and federal workers, and every single time the Democrats voted not to. That is the record. They'll continue to put this bill on the floor. It'll be on the floor again next week in the Senate, and we'll see how many times they want people to go without paychecks. The Republicans are not playing games here. We sent a very clean, simple CR. You see this. Thank you so much for that. We are doing the job and making sure that the American people are taken care of.
Whoa.
But judging by their behavior right now, the Democrats don't appear to be in any rush to end this pain. There's some headlines I brought you this morning. I just want you to hear what's being said about this. CNN headline from yesterday, quote, Democrats say even missed paychecks for U.S. troops won't be enough to end the shutdown alone. For many of them, this is about showing a fight to President Trump. They have to show a fight against Republicans so they can appease who? The far left base of their party. It is shameful. And for what? Chuck Schumer, the architect of this shutdown, is trying to bow to the Marxist wing of his party. You heard him yesterday. He said in his own words, every day of the shutdown, he said, quote, gets better for us. Better for who, Chuck? For the Democrats in the Senate? So you can bow to the Marxist base and not get a challenge? Here's another headline from Politico yesterday. Quote, Chuck Schumer's critics are satisfied. Yeah, the far left base, the party is satisfied. They don't mind. The troops go without pay and civilian workers are furloughed. They don't care. Former DNC chair David Hogg, he heaped praise on Chuck Schumer as well. This is what Chuck Schumer was after. This is what he desires. The praise from the far left. David Hogg said, quote, give credit where credit's due. This is a big step up. A big step up. While you're delaying flights, while you're making people go through this pain. The co-founder of the far left group Indivisible said this yesterday publicly, quote, Chuck Schumer hasn't surrendered yet. I call that progress. There's one inescapable fact. It's a glaring fact that everybody in America can see. Chuck Schumer is hurting real Americans for his own political survival. I'm going to say that again. Chuck Schumer is hurting real Americans for his own political survival. If you're a service member who's not getting a paycheck, it's because Chuck Schumer has to appease the Marxist. Cut and simple. It's plain and simple. Shame on you, Chuck. Every Senate Democrat who's going along with this, you lack the moral fortitude to do the right thing. This is the first time in history, the first time in the history of the United States Congress that a party has shut down the government over a clean CR. We frankly didn't expect this. We sent over a no-frills 24-page document to keep the lights on, keep Congress working, to keep the paychecks flowing. They stopped it because they're afraid of the far left. I'm just going to walk through a quick sample of the devastating impacts that Americans are feeling as we speak right here, because this is real. And you'll note a theme here. A lot of these are blue states where their Senate Democrats are over here keeping the government closed. In California, home of the nation's largest civilian workforce, more than 250,000 federal workers are now working without pay. Woo! Both the Democrat senators, Padilla and Schiff, have now voted 7 times to block those paychecks. In Virginia, there are 189,000 federal employees, nearly 5% of the state's workforce, that are waiting on their next full paycheck. And both of their senators, Warner and Kaine, refused to pass a clean bipartisan CR that Democrats supported 13 times under Joe Biden in the previous 4 years. In Maryland, Maryland is a hub of trade and commerce. You have 150,000 federal workers there. Both of their senators, also Brooks and Van Hollen, have voted 7 times to keep the government closed. In Georgia, home to our nation's busiest airport, there's close to 110,000 federal workers, including thousands of TSA agents and air traffic controllers, now being forced to work without pay. You guessed it. Senators Ossoff and Warnock voted to block those paychecks too. Arizona, 58,000 workers serve the federal government, including many Border Patrol agents who are working hard to keep us safe. That hasn't stopped Arizona Senators Kelly and Gallego from blocking funding 7 times for the paychecks for their own constituents. In fact, they have so much idle time, they're having publicity stunts, posing publicity stunts outside my office. In New York, let's talk about New York because this is interesting. It's the home to both of the Democrat leaders, both in the Senate and the House. 115,000 federal workers are waiting on Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand to come to their senses and end this shutdown. Chuck Schumer said himself, with every day of the shutdown gets better for us. And what does that look like? We're talking about 2 million civilian workers, 1.3 million active duty service members, everybody being hurt because of it. Chuck is what they're doing right now. I've been asked many times in interviews over the last couple of days, you seem angry, you don't get angry a lot. I don't, but this is beyond the pale. What Chuck Schumer's doing right now it's sickening. It's sickening to hear him say it's better for him and his party when it's so terrible for real Americans. Millions of people are experiencing real pain because of these political games. And you'd think after 44 years in Congress, Chuck Schumer would know better. But it seems apparent now that he spent too long in Washington to understand the real pain of real people. We're going to share a few more things with you about this morning and to talk about some of the real world impacts on federal law enforcement. We've asked our House Committee Chairman, the Chairman of our House Administration Committee, Brian Stile, to come and talk a little bit more about that. So Chairman Stile, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your leadership. Chuck Schumer yesterday said every day gets better for the Democrats. That's certainly not true for the men and women in blue. Today is the first day that the men and women of law enforcement here in the United States Capitol, U.S. Capitol Police, are not receiving pay that they earned since the beginning of the Chuck Schumer shutdown. As this continues, the chaos and consequences of the Schumer shutdown continue to build. Yet the men and women in law enforcement are asked to go out and serve and protect us every day. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries will maintain a security detail, men and women that aren't being paid because of Democrats' decision to shut down the federal government. I chair the Committee on House Administration, work closely with the men and women of the United States Capitol Police, and they're suffering the consequences of the Schumer shutdown today. It's particularly concerning in a period of time when political violence is on the rise. Senate Democrats have voted to shut down the federal government 7 times. That's 7 times to defund our police. I'd ask Chuck Schumer if it's getting better for the men and women of Border Patrol who are on the border securing the United States of America. I'd ask him if it's getting better for the United States Marshals who are doing incredibly dangerous work on behalf of our country in every state. I'd ask him if it's getting better for the United States Secret Service, who's protecting the President of the United States. Chuck Schumer has put politics over people. It's getting better for his politics, he thinks. It's not better for the people of the United States of America. We should be standing with the men and women of law enforcement who are doing their job to protect us. And I think it's incredibly unfair and unjust that the men and women of Capitol Police have not received the money that they earned since the start of the Chuck Schumer shutdown. With that, I want to introduce our leader, Steve Scalise.
Well, thank you, Chairman Stile. And as the Speaker pointed out, too, it's disgraceful that not only are we in this shutdown because Chuck Schumer is only concerned about appeasing the most radical elements of his base, but time and time again, 7 times now, you've had other Senate Democrats join in with him to keep the government closed. And they're feeling some pressure, but what they're trying to do now, both Democrats in the House and Senate, is trying to shift the blame away. While they're voting to shut the government down, they're trying to blame other people. Let's be clear, and the Speaker showed it. We've had actual votes on the House floor to keep the government open. We've had those same votes on the Senate floor. You can see who has been voting to pay our troops, who has been voting to pay our TSA agents, our Border Patrol agents, and who are those people that are voting to shut it down, to deny pay to our troops. It's crystal clear. And you can go see the voice votes, the record votes. Members of Congress, House and Senate, have actually cast votes over and over again on whether they want to keep it open or shut it down. You don't have to wonder about a blame game. Gee whiz, both sides are blaming the other side. Just go look at the votes. There have been actual votes in the House and the Senate, 8 different times now, between the two chambers to open the government down. And Republicans have said, yes, let's keep the government open while we negotiate our differences. And Democrats continue to say no so they can appease their radical base. And so as Chuck Schumer denies pay to millions of federal workers, we know roughly at least 1 in 3 of every service member in America lives paycheck to paycheck. Now, should they get solace in knowing that they're risking their lives, some of them overseas, while their families are here, and on Monday, when we get to the date where paychecks would be cut, the government will still be shut down, and they won't even be getting a paycheck on the 15th. Rent will still be due, mortgages will still be due, car notes will still be due for those service members risking their life. Should they take solace in knowing that at least it's a good day for Chuck Schumer? At least Chuck Schumer feels like the shutdown's working good for Schumer. That's not going to give solace to any of those families. And instead, it actually increases the anger of the families all across America who are seeing the real cost of this shutdown. They know who's voting to shut the government down, but now they're feeling direct pain. And the only thing they hear from Democrat leaders that keep voting no is, oh, it's a good day for us because the far left is patting us on the back. Do they really need a participation trophy to feel good about themselves while they inflict pain on millions of people? It's disgraceful. And as the speaker pointed out this morning, one of the other things that's being reported now is that one of the dates it looks like they're holding the government hostage over is the 18th of the month, where they're having this Hate America rally in Washington. And Democrats want to keep the government shut down to show all of those people that are going to come here and express their hatred towards this country that they're fighting President Trump, that they're keeping the government closed as if it's something to be proud of. They ought to be ashamed. If they had any shame, they would come back, they would open up the government, and then we can negotiate our differences, which are very, very large on a lot of these issues. But in the meantime, we all know who's doing this. The votes are crystal clear. The public can go see who's voting to keep the government open, who's voting to shut it down. Chuck Schumer and his Democrat colleagues who are doing this need to look themselves in the mirror and start working for the American people instead of being so concerned about appeasing their far left radical base. With that, our whip, Tom Emmer.
I'm going to go back to Chuck's words again. Quote, every day gets better for us. You reopen the government and we lose our leverage. The point of this shutdown is not just suffering for suffering's sake, but to make a point. These are actual quotes from Chuck Schumer and Senate.
Hey, what's up? Yosti 3381. Thank you for joining.
Democrats over the last week. You don't have to take our word for what their motivations are in shutting down the government. They are spelling it out for you and all of us. This is about one thing and one thing only: to score political points with the terrorist wing of their party, which is set to hold, as Leader Scalise just commented on, a Hate America rally in D.C. next week. And they've forced military families, air traffic controllers, Border Patrol agents, farmers, veterans, TSA agents, and federal workers to pay the price.
Thank you for joining.
We're now on day 10 of the Democrat shutdown. Senate Democrats, including Senator Tina Smith in my home state of Minnesota, have had 7 opportunities to reopen the government, but they've refused every single time. Consequently, Americans across the country are experiencing flight delays. In a matter of mere days, 11,000 Minnesota National Guardsmen won't get paid. Federal workers are being forced to figure out how they're going to put food on the table for their families, just so the Democrats can maintain their leverage to make a point. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and it should be disqualifying. With election season right around the corner, I hope every single American is taking note. Republicans have done our job. Democrats, on the other hand,
Michelle, how you doing?
are only here to play politics, and they're willing to hang their constituents out to dry to do it. And with that, I'll turn it back to our speaker.
Thank you, Whip Emmer. Take a few questions this morning. Yeah, Jack.
I know your position about saying it was on the Senate. They have to take our bill that would reopen the government. But haven't the circumstances changed? And because there's a dire emergency, as Mr. Stein talks about the Capitol Police, we all talked about the military, to say we should do something different here. We're still going to apply our pressure on the Senate, but you know, if you're in the middle of a ball game and the strategy changes, you're behind, or somebody gets hurt or something like that, the coach calls in different play. Why not call in a different play right now?
Well, the ball game analogy doesn't fit here because we weren't playing a game. We sent over a clean CR, and I've explained this many times. If there was some Republican priority or poison pill or gimmick or trick or something that I could pull off the CR in order to negotiate with Democrats, I would have already done it. It's not there. When I say we're operating in good faith, I mean it. We sent over a totally clean measure that they had already voted for before. In fact, that Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches as recently as March of this year. The same instrument, the same one that he said was the right thing to do and that it must be done so Americans don't feel harm. He said that earlier this year. So we sent him the same instrument, hoping, of course, believing that they would do what has always been done here and pass a clean CR. And they didn't. So I don't have anything to negotiate. There's nothing more for me to do. I literally don't have a card that I can take off the deck because we did it all in good faith. They're the ones politicizing this. They're trying to play a game. We're not engaging in a game. We're trying to get the government open again so that people can be served, and it's plain and simple. Yes, sir.
To Chad's question, though, hasn't the state of play changed here, though? Isn't it perhaps the responsible thing to do to pass some kind of legislation to pay troops, to pay federal...
We did that. We passed the bill. We have voted 8 times. Republicans have voted 8 times to pay the troops, to pay the civilian workforce, to pay TSA agents, Border Patrol, air traffic controllers, and all the rest. We've done it. The Democrats have voted no every time. There is no other instrument to do it. It's called a CR to keep the lights on and the doors open so that Congress can do its work, so that, as the leader Scalise said, so that we can do all the rest of the negotiation and deliberation on all these other issues. Open the government, Democrats. That's what this is. We have voted so many times to pay the troops. We've already done it. We did it in the House 3 weeks ago. The ball is in the court of Senate Democrats right now. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of strategy, if you could speak to your strategy on keeping the House out in their districts and any idea when they may come back.
This is not a strategy call to keep the House working in their districts right now. There's an urgent necessity of it. We had a conference call yesterday with House Republicans. They're fanned out across the country. They're in their districts trying to help their constituents because so many of them are now struggling because of the Democrats' games. So they're helping, for example, rural hospitals to access the funds that we got signed into law July 4th, $50 billion rural hospital fund, so they can provide for health care for their constituents. They need to know how to navigate that before Chuck Schumer and the Democrats try to take it away. Their counterproposal CR would spend $1.5 trillion and take away the $50 billion that we passed into law just on July 4th, signed into law by President Trump to prop up rural hospitals. Who cares about health care here? Okay, our members are out working diligently in their districts, serving their constituents right now. We will come back here and get back to legislative session as soon as the Senate Democrats turn the lights back on. That's the fact. That's where we are. Yes, ma'am.
On the military pay, though, in past shutdowns, there have been ways to guarantee that members of the military get paid. There are over 100 Republicans in your caucus who have signed on to a standalone bill to pay these military members. So at what point do you rethink
Every single Republican is not just talking about paying troops. We have already had those votes. We have done that. We did it 3 weeks ago. The executive branch, the president, is working on ways that he may have as well to ensure that troops are paid. The Republican Party stands for paying the troops. The Democrats are the ones that are demonstrating over and over and over now 8 times that they don't want troops to be paid. This could not be any simpler than it is. Look at the record. Don't listen to what these Democrat politicians are saying up here. Look at how they're voting and demand that they do the right thing. That is where we are, and that's where it'll be. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a question with Emmer. Mr. Emmer, I know the White House announced last week that they were going to rescind $7.5 billion in green energy funds. They went to a number of states. It includes your district, however. Excel Energy Services is on the line to lose $7 million if this funding is rescinded. What conversations have you had with the White House about this, and what is your expectation for this funding? Is it truly gone, or is there some way to get it back?
Well, this is going to affect the Speaker, this is going to affect the Leader, this is going to affect our Chairman, Representative Stile, and all of our members. Literally, this could end today. If Chuck Schumer and Democrats would reopen the government, this wouldn't be an issue. And what's happened is the White House has to make some very serious and difficult decisions as to what's essential and what's not. If you want to end it, Chuck Schumer, reopen the government.
So, sir, your understanding is the White House will continue with that funding when the government reopens?
I would suggest that you call Tina Smith and ask her why she wants to keep the government shut down and put all this at risk.
Is there a breaking point, like 2 paychecks missed, 3 paychecks, 4 paychecks, where you all change your strategy and say we're going to bring House Republicans back and negotiate before the government's reopened?
I would like you to ask that identical question to Chuck Schumer. We have done the work in the House. We are awaiting them to do theirs. This is a 2-body, 2-chamber legislative body. Okay, the House did its work. The House and Senate Republicans have repeatedly affirmed that. You saw the chart. 8 times now, they have voted to get the government open and get troops paid and federal civilian workers paid. Democrats have dug their heels in and said, no, 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 over and over. They're the ones blocking the checks, not Republicans. All these questions should be directed to them and not to us. That is how this works. Thank you all for being here.
All right, there you go.
Wow. Y'all hear that, chat? She asked him a direct question. If this government shutdown lasts, keep going, and the troops and the government people are missing 2 checks, 3 checks, 4 checks, 5 checks, will they reevaluate their situation? Will they give in to the Democrats? And that answer to that question is no. So in other words, this government shutdown is going to keep going. Get back to the Gaza Strip. More and more people are headed back home. Yeah, probably somewhere over about near the beachfront. Probably somewhere over there. Oh, there isn't much of a home left. Yeah, a lot of these people, nothing to go back to. But of course, American government and our tax money is going to rebuild this place. That's what's going to happen. Let's go back and look and see what's going on in the hood. Get a good look at what's going on inside the hood of Gaza.
Yeah.
Chad, I'm gonna come back to this.
And a testament to our collective commitment to regional and global security. Mr. Secretary, we welcome President Trump's executive order reaffirming American commitment to Qatar's security and sovereignties. It reflects the strength of our alliances and our shared belief that peace is the best preserved through strength and partnership. We also value the close cooperation between Doha and Washington that led to the signing of the Gaza peace plan on October 8th. This historic achievement underscores what can be accomplished when our nations work together with courage and trust, amongst other partners such as Egypt and Turkey. We further welcome today's signing of the letter of acceptance establishing a Qatari Emir Air Force facility and Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho. This step strengthens interoperabilities, enhance joint readiness, and advance our shared defense goals. Mr. Secretary, together we will continue to deepen this strategic partnership in pursuit of lasting peace and shared security. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we will
sign now.
Sign and trade. How about that?
Yeah.
Exchange.
Josh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, conditions on the ground.
All right, so that was some playback there from that meeting between Secretary Pete Hegseth as well as his Qatari counterpart. You did see that they were signing a deal there, but making some brief remarks. Now, Hegseth not taking any questions, but if that does change and we get that fed back, if he does answer.
Morning, and we've been verifying video circulating on social media like this, showing tanks and heavy machinery approaching and crossing the western Erez, which is located on the Gaza Strip's northern border. Now, to recap, this is President Trump's latest plan for the first stage of Israeli troop withdrawal. You can see that here in these yellow lines. Now, it would mean Israel would still control about 55% of Gaza. Israel has already sliced the Gaza Strip into different military corridors, as you can see here in these red lines, now used by the army for access to move across Gaza. In some places, you can see that the White House plan roughly matches up with some existing boundaries created by the Israeli military. It's worth emphasizing this is the latest map, but we don't know how closely this corresponds to what was finally agreed, and that will be crucial to what happens to Israeli troops on the ground. Now, Palestinians will have the chance to return home to northern Gaza, where they were ordered to flee. But what's left for them to return to? Israel has destroyed swathes of the Strip. Whole neighborhoods in Gaza City have been wiped off the map. For now, Palestinians and Israelis will be waiting anxiously in the hopes that the ceasefire agreement holds.
Well, will it hold? That is the key question. That's Merlin Thomas reporting. But let's talk to Mikey Kay, former British military strategist and expert analyst on the BBC's Security Brief.
That's the area that didn't get hit. What's this?
Of healthcare. The cost of healthcare has become the leading cause of bankruptcies among American families and small businesses. Since 2000, the cost of healthcare has more than doubled, rising by 121%. And now, healthcare costs that have doubled since 2000 are in danger of doubling again, and doubling overnight. If Republicans refuse to reopen the government and extend the ACA subsidies, 24 million Americans will see their premiums more than double, rising by an average of 114%. And if you're a 55-year-old couple earning $85,000 a year, you will see your premiums not only double, but more than triple, from around $7,000 to around $24,000, a premium shock of $17,000. There is not a single working family in the Bronx, not a single working family anywhere in America that can afford the shock of a sudden spike, of a sudden $17,000 premium. The loss of Medicaid and Obamacare funding will mean that the elderly and the disabled lose access to home care and nursing homes and assisted living. It will mean that children with disabilities, children with autism, will lose access to specialized therapy. It will mean that pregnant mothers will lose access to maternal care. Their babies will lose access to baby care. And it will mean that healthcare heroes will lose their jobs, will lose their ability to put food on the table and pay their bills and keep their families afloat. When you shut down both the federal government and much of our healthcare system, you are wreaking havoc on both the lives and livelihoods of American families. You are not only killing jobs, you are killing actual people. Donald Trump and Republicans live in a morally inverted universe.
In my opinion, guys, Donald Trump and the Republicans are not going to extend that tax subsidy. I don't think they're going to extend it, guys, because if you was on the live, I think that was yesterday morning, Trump said all Democrat policies and the things that Democrats put in place, he's going to shut down. I hate to say it like this, but this health care subsidy is not going to be extended. I said it right here. I hope I'm wrong. But Trump told us yesterday that Democratic policies and these things that they put in place, he's going to cut them. And we all know Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, is a Democratic policy.
Republicans are willing to give tax cuts to billionaires, but are unwilling to give tax credits to working families. Republicans are willing to subsidize luxury airplanes for billionaires, but are unwilling to subsidize the healthcare needs of the disabled and the elderly and the chronically ill. To whom much is given, much is expected. The wealthiest nation on earth should be expected to guarantee health care for every single American. Health care is not a privilege, it is a right. It is not a luxury. It is the lifeline of every American, and it is the lifeblood of every American community. And if there is one cause worth fighting for, it should be the health and health care.
Lifetime. I've been telling them that for a year, for a whole year on this channel. I've been talking about get a job, spend less, make some investments for a whole year or more than a year. But specifically, I've been saying that for a year straight to this day. Anybody that's been on this channel, you know, back in October, November of last year, I've been talking about earning, spending less, making proper investments. Get yourself prepared because you never know what might happen. But if y'all heard what Donald Trump said yesterday, they not playing. Like I say, and a lot of people in this chat, you probably know a lot of people that can't go to work, but they're getting all these benefits and not trying to advance they well-being, not trying to advance their skills, not trying to advance their income. We all know a lot of people. Well, if you're in this bracket, it's time to get a skill and go to work. Because what Donald Trump told us yesterday, this affordable health care plan is inside of, is one of the things he was talking about, guys. It's one of the things he was talking about.
Of the American people. So I want to introduce a leader from 1199, Jocelyn LeBrun.
All right, did want to bring you those comments there from
Let me get ready to go back over here. In my opinion, guys, those Obamacare, Affordable Care Act subsidies are going to expire. I might be wrong. I hope not. But everything is looking that those subsidies was put in because of COVID. And that a lot of people are saying that those subsidies should expire because those were put in place when COVID hit. So I think that they should be extended. That's what I personally think. I think that because of what's going on right now, you know, if those subsidies expire, people premiums are going to go up. And that's the last thing that 80% of the Americans need right now. But I think specifically, they are going to let those subsidies expire. Man, crazy word. And then some people might say, well, Democrats are not passing the CR. I think they call it continuing resolution, where, okay, we're going to keep the government open and we're going to talk about this later down the line. And I think that the majority of these Democrats already know that those subsidies are going to expire, which I think they're due to expire in November. Yeah, if we get close, like I think they're due to expire within 90 days. Man. That's right. Gotta learn a skill. And I know so many people, guys, that are on this stuff, but was at the club last night. I know so many people that are on this stuff that's sweet right now because they drunk too much Don Julio last night at 5150 the club around the corner. I know so many people that's on this stuff that's not even paying attention to my YouTube channel. I know so many people that are on this stuff that I know in real life, and I tell this to them, and they get mad. Crazy word. I know so many people that are on this stuff that go and be in the club tonight. Ladies' night is tonight. So I think I'm ending right here, guys. Hope y'all have a great day. I will be back later. Today is Friday. Hope y'all have a great day, chat. If you're just not tuning in, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate y'all for joining me. I'm going to end the live right here. I will be back for the walk down, which is later. Hope y'all join me for the walk down. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I have a great day, chat. To the next one, I'm out. Line of God. I'm in Southern California. What state is that? I am in Texas. Talking about what we were looking at, that is the Gaza Strip. All the people on the Gaza Strip are going back home because we are in a ceasefire, supposedly a ceasefire, and all of these people are going back home. I just hope it's not a trap. That's what I hope, guys. So with that being said, chat, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when we live again. I hope y'all have a great weekend. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, chat. I love and I appreciate y'all. To the next one, I'm out.